Hi, my name is Mark, and today I'd like to tell you more about Galactic Cruise, the big game here. It's a game I received for review from Kinson Games. Thanks for sending it. I have already did an unboxing video of this game. This is quite a huge box with a lot of components. If you are curious how it looks like, please watch the other video, because today I want to focus more on the game itself. I want to tell you and show you more or less how the game plays. This is a fairly complex Euro game, so I will not explain everything, but I will give you a general idea what the game is about, and of course I will tell you my opinion on this game. If you don't know, Galactic Cruise is a Euro game for 1 to 4 players. There is a solo mode included where you play against Automa, and in this game you are a CEO of a company that builds rockets and sends different clients and tourists to Galactic Cruises, to different cruises, and then you will earn victory points, of course, like in most Euro games. So let me show you what the game is about, and then we'll come back here and I will tell you what I think about Galactic Cruise. So let me tell you a little how to play Galactic Cruise. This is a fairly complex game, and a lot of things are going on here, as you can probably see just by looking at the components, but I will try to tell you more or less what you can do in this game and what is the goal of the game. This is the board. The board is quite big. It didn't fit completely in my frame, but I think what you see is enough. The board is double-sided. This side here is the side of the game, side of the board that is suggested for the, you can say, introductionary game, when you learn the game, because a lot of things are already printed on the board, like the technologies here on the top, different actions, some bonus that you get from your expert worker. In the other side of the board is empty in those spaces, and you have different tiles that you will randomly shuffle and place on the board. So in the more advanced mode of the game, the board will look a little different every time you play the game. You will have different goals, different tiles, and so on. But the general idea and the general mechanics in this game are the same, no matter if you play on this side or on the other side. So here's the board, and Galactic Cruise is basically a worker placement game where you will place your workers on different areas on the board, and then you will perform your actions. I will talk about all those actions in a second, but the overall and the goal of the game is basically to build different rockets. Here you have rocket parts, like segments, different rooms, you have cockpits, you have engines, and during the game you will construct those rockets. Then you will advertise your cruise, you will lure different customers to go on your cruise, and then you will launch your rocket, you will take the passengers and you will send them on a space galactic trip. They will travel through the galaxy, visit different destinations, and this is mostly how you score victory points in this game. There is a cool thing like this employee handbook that is added to the game. There is 1 copy for each player, and here you have, apart from different actions, a very cool segment that says, how do I score points? Because some points you score during the game, some points you score at the end of the game, and how do you get different resources and how you can spend those resources. So this is very useful, especially when you learn the game and you start playing the game, because everything is written here. So you have different cockpits, you have engines, you have blueprints that you will use to build different rooms in your rockets. You have some agenda cards. Those are the cards that they have special abilities, and you can play them on your turn. Here are some goals that you can achieve. The game doesn't last for a fixed number of rounds. Basically, here you have those progress tracks. You have 3 progress tracks, and you will place cubes on those tracks. Every time you launch a rocket or you complete one of the goals, you will place 1 cube into those into those progress tiles. And when the tile number 1, 2, and 3 is full with cubes of every player, the game ends, or the end game phase triggers. At the end of first progress tile, you will score some points. At the end of the second, and after the third one is full, you will have the end game scoring. So the more rockets you send into space, the faster the end game triggers. Apart from the main board, there is this one board here at the bottom. Normally you should put it to the side of the game board, but it wouldn't fit in the frame of my camera, so I placed it on the bottom. And this is basically a board where you have different cruises, and here you will be able to send your cruise consultant to different cruise, and then you have those tourists. There are 3 types of them: a family one, like a party tourist, and a tourist that wants to spend holidays on adventuring, and you will advertise your cruises to those tourists, and then you will take them into your rocket, and you will launch your rocket and score some points in outer space. There is this player board. It's also quite big and quite complex. As you can already see, there are a lot of icons, a lot of elements here. The game indeed is fairly complex, but at the same time it's quite intuitive. And believe me that after playing the game once, or even after a few turns, a few rounds in the game, you will remember most of the rules for this game. But this is your player board. On this player board, you have different upgrades that you will be able to unlock during the game. Some of those upgrades give you one-time bonus, like those on the bottom. They are only one-time use, but they give you money, they give you some ads and resources. And those upgrades on the top, they are like, when you remove them, you will get more bonuses during the game. Here you have 3 areas that you will fill with those upgrade tokens when you send your ships into space, and they give you some bonuses and benefits. A lot of them give you like a long-term benefits that trigger during the game. Here you have your workers. They are laying here. Normally they should stand, but I want you to see everything in the camera, so they are laying flat on the player board, and you will place those workers on the main board to perform different actions. You also have 2 expert workers that you can basically buy and unlock during the game. So you start with 2 workers, but you can gain additional 2. Here you have your resource track, and there are 3 resources like food, oxygen, and fuel, and you need those resources to launch your rockets into space. And those cogs here, they limit the maximum amount of resources you can store. But of course, during the game, you will be able to remove those cogs, and you will be able to place them on the board. This will give you additional options when performing actions, but it will also unlock you the options to store more resources, and you will need more resources during the game, because the more advanced the space ships, the rockets are, the more resources you need to launch them. And on the left side of the board, you will build your rockets. You can have maximum 3 rockets, 3 spaceships in the game, and each spaceship can have maximum 3 different segments. By segments, I mean those rooms that you will place into your spaceships. So you can have 3 spaceships, and each spaceship can have 3 different segments. And I'm not counting the engine and the cockpit, so just the rooms. Of course, during the game, there is an option. For example, if you get the bonus here, you can have, as it says, 4 rockets, and each rocket can have 4 segments, but basically it's 3 rockets and 3 segments each. And when you launch a rocket, this is like this launch action spot where you place your worker, and it moves from bottom to top, performing different things. The overall, and apart from these resources, like you have food, fuel, and oxygen, you also have 2 additional resources, and those resources are money, the blue tokens, and ads, the white ones. And you spend basically ads to sell tickets to your cruise, so you can get more customers, more tourists onto your cruise, and then you will need ads to spend them when they are already in space, to sell them different trips on your cruise. And money is basically needed to upgrade a lot of things, like upgrade those developments on the board, to buy and to build new blueprints, to unlock the expert workers. So basically ads are needed for your tourists, and money is needed for your company to progress and to do different things. So apart from launching the ship into space, this is the part that I will explain a little later. The basic flow of the game is that in your turn, first you will progress your ship that is in space, but as I said, I will talk about it a little later. Then you can take one of the available workers that you have, and you will place them on one of the action spots here. You can already see some blue workers here, because when you play a two-player game, you have like some additional dummy workers that block the space, but basically they are used to like kick you out of worker spaces, because in this game, when you place your worker in a space to perform actions, if the space is empty, you can just place your worker and do the actions. But if it's occupied by another worker, you will bump it out of the space. And for example, if the blue worker is a worker of another player and you want to perform those actions, you can play your worker here, and this blue worker goes back to its player board, and you will gain some small funding bonuses. So the bumping mechanism in this game is quite important, because it also allows you to basically perform more actions, because if someone bumps out your worker off the board, it goes back to your player board and you can use this worker in a future turn, because normally when you're out of workers, you have to spend your whole turn to get back all the workers from the board to your player board. So you have your worker, you place your worker on an action spot, let's say for example here, and now you can perform two actions. On each area here, you have two actions printed, and you have two action points to spend, so you can perform this action and this action, or you can perform this action twice or this action twice. You can do two things. If you have this cog placed somewhere on the board, you place one during the setup, and then you place additional developments, they are called, on the board during the game. If the area your worker is placed is adjacent to one of your developments, you can also perform actions from the area that is adjacent to your development. So for example, if I have placed my worker here, I have four actions to choose from, this one and this one, but also this one and this one, because this area is connected to this area with my development. And this is also another important mechanic of the game, because during the game you will have more and more developments on the board, and it will allow you more flexibility. Because for example, if my other development is here, then if I place my worker here, I have access to these actions, those actions, and those actions here. But I can perform two actions. Two actions here, to here, two, so you can say 12 different actions. And what are those actions? Here you can get blueprints from the board. And blueprints, basically, they give you some victory points at the end of the game. They have a building cost. You pay this cost not now, not when you take a blueprint, but when you then decide to build a blueprint that you already have. And here are the preferred tourists that want to visit this specific segment into your spaceship when it's already built on your ship. As you can see, you have three types of tourists, as I said earlier, blue, purple, and orange ones. So, making it simple, basically, when you place those segments into your spaceship, then you would optimally you want to have tourists in your spaceship that match those icons on the segments that you have in your spaceship. The more, let's say that this is my spaceship, and if I have a blue tourist into my spaceship, then the more blue icons I have in my ship, the more bonuses I will gain later in the game. So you have to try to match tourists with the icons on the blueprints. So here you can get blueprints, or you can pay 1 money to get any 2 resources, or you can pay 1 money to get 2 ads. Here you can buy developments from your player board, those cogs here. The cost is printed at the bottom of each column of the developments here. When you place them on the board, they will give you access to more action areas on the board, but you can also place them on the top, because on the top of the board you have 4 technologies that give you some benefits during the game. And if you want to place a development somewhere on the board, instead of placing it here in the network area where you have different actions, you can place them on the top to get access to some technologies. Like this one allows you to launch a rocket with less and pay less fuel. Here you have to pay less food. Here it costs less ads to add tourists to your cruise or to your ship. Here building developments is cheaper. So those technologies are unlocked when you place your development. There is also an option in the game to use the developments of other players, but then you will have to pay them. How much money you have to pay? It depends on the reputation. I haven't talked about reputation yet, but at the bottom of this board is this reputation track, and the higher you are on the reputation track, the less money you have to pay for using other players' developments. Additionally, when you have your marker on this reputation track, once per turn you can lower your reputation to gain the bonuses that are depicted on the bottom of this reputation track. To sum it shortly, because there is more rules to this action, but basically there is a reputation that you can lower to gain some benefits, and depending on your reputation you have to pay less for using developments of other players. So here you can place development from your player board, or you can pay and unlock this expert worker from your player board, so you'll have more workers in the game. Here on this action space you can get agenda cards. Agenda cards are quite cool because they give you some benefits and bonuses. Some cards can be played anytime, like here, gain free ads from the supply. You can play it on your turn anytime. And here, for example, you can choose a non-paired cockpit and engine, and this can be only played when you perform this specific action. Also, when you have these agenda cards, you can spend them anytime during your turn to gain the resources depicted here. So agenda cards can be either spent for its action written on the card, or for the resource shown in the left bottom corner. So here you can either get 2 cards from here, or if there are no cards, you can refill this agenda card market here and gain bonuses that are depicted on the board below those cards. Here you can gain resources from the silo. There is this silo here, and those are like shared resources, shared between all players. And here you can gain any free resources from this silo, or you can fill up one type of resource to the top. You will gain reputation and you will gain money. So you can either get resources or refill this silo and gain some bonuses. Here you can use your consultant on this board to reserve a cruise. You will place a consultant on one of the cruises of your choosing, and this is the cruise that you will send tourists onto. And the second action means that you can pay some ads to add tourists from this area here to a specific cruise. And you want to do it because those tourists will be able to enter your ship and go on your cruise when you are ready. And the last action space is that you can get a new rocket. You get those parts. You have the cockpit and you have the engine. When you get a part like this, you get the bonuses printed on the engine straight away, and you flip it like this, and then the cockpit will give you some points when you launch a rocket, and when the game ends, Basically, each cockpit has got different scoring conditions. Like here you get 5 victory points for each expert worker that you have unlocked during the game. So you will get this bonus twice, once when you launch a rocket and the second time and when the game ends. So this action allows you to get new spaceships. You have to remember that you can have 3 spaceships in the game. And the second action allows you to build 2 sections into your spaceships, either by paying for the blueprints that you have already gathered during the game. Here is the building cost, like here is free money. Or you can build segments directly from the blueprint area on the board, but you have to pay additional cost that is printed here. So for example, if I want to build this segment into my ship, I don't have this segment on my player board, but it's here on the main board, I have to pay 5 money plus 2 money, and I will lose 1 reputation. So it's more expensive, but then you can build segments directly from the main board into your ships. And those are the 12 different actions, basically. The last action that you can take is to launch a spaceship. Then you will take your worker, instead of placing your workers on the board, you will place your worker here. There is this lift, and then you will take the cruise from the cruise board, take some tourists, place one of your cubes on this progress track here. You have to pay food for each person plus 1 for the pilot. Then you have to pay oxygen for each segment, and fuel is printed on the cruise tile itself. Then you will score your cockpit. You will flip the cockpit to the other side, because each cockpit has got this -5 points at the top. And if you launch this spaceship at least once, you will flip it, because if you have a rocket in your player area and you didn't launch this rocket during the game, you will score some negative points. And then you will take one of those bonus tiles, you will place it on the rocket, and the rocket will fly into the space. When the rocket is into space, at the start of each round, you will progress, and this works like this. You have those cruise tiles, you will have your pilot, and the pilot moves from each space, one space to another. Here you will gain bonuses for having specific type of passengers on your spaceship that match the color icon on the segments. And here you can send the tourists you have onto different trips and excursions, and then gain victory points. And at the start of each turn, you progress it from left to right. When it's here and on your next turn, you remove it, and your rocket lands, your spaceship comes back into Earth, and you can then launch it again. So if you have your spaceships built during the game, you can send your spaceship multiple times into space during one game. You have to focus on building different rockets, getting different segments, trying to match the icons on the segments with the tourists that join your cruise. Then you will score for the segments, you will score for the different cockpits, and when the game ends, the player with most victory points wins the game. I will not tell you exactly for everything you score victory point, because a lot of the victory points is scored during the game, some are scored at the end of the game, but basically each cockpit will give you some victory points, each segment will give you victory points. The more developments you remove from your player board, the more points you score. The higher you are on the reputation track, the more victory points you score. You score victory points from the scoring that occurs 3 times during the game. But basically this is how you play it. If you want to play solo, you play against an opponent, and the opponent is using this deck of cards. You give your opponent a player board, but your opponent, the automa, doesn't use any resources, doesn't use money, and doesn't use ads. So it's a little simpler than using your player board. You choose a difficulty level depending on the difficulty. Okay, one thing I forgot to tell you is that when you're out of workers, I don't remember if I told it, but when you're out of workers, you take all your workers back into your player board in the multiplayer game, and you get some bonuses. And when you play against the bot, you choose a difficulty level, and basically it tells you what happens when the bot returns what happens when bot returns the workers from the board to this card. Also, it tells you how the bot performs different actions. But basically, when it's at your opponent's turn in a solo game, you have this deck of cards. You will flip the top card, and you will perform this action shown here. First, you will place one of the available workers of the automa onto the player area, one of the 6 spaces shown here. Then you will try to perform this action. The actions for the bot, they work a little different because it doesn't get blueprints, it doesn't get agenda cards. It basically discards from the board some of those elements. But also here are the numbers on the top of the card that you have flipped. And this tells you, for example, which element, which tile, which card the bot tries to remove when it removes something. And if the bot cannot perform the top action, it tries to perform the bottom action. If it cannot perform either of those actions, you have to take another card. And basically the bot performs a lot of actions, but they work simpler than you. But it also builds rockets. The bot sends those rockets into space. It occupies different action spaces. It will bump your workers. You will be able to bump your opponent workers. And it will try to score as many points as it can. And of course, when the game ends, either you or the bot wins the game. So this is basically how you play Galactic Cruise. Now let me tell you what I think about this game. Okay, so I have written down everything I like and I don't like about this game. The things I like, first is the gameplay is satisfying because everything we do is quite fun and interesting, and it's got a really cool theme that helps you to understand the game. Because as I said in the beginning of the video, you will build those rockets, then you will take different tourists, you will launch the rockets, the tourists will give you victory points. So it's engaging and gives you nice brain workout because there's a lot of things you can plan and a lot of things to think about during the game. Another cool thing is that the production quality is really great. The game looks great, the components are great, all the trays and storage solution is wonderful. Like you have this plastic trays in shape of rockets with every player's components. I really encourage you to watch the unboxing video I did because there you can see all the components very close. But the game looks really, really nice, and everything in the box has got its own tray and space in the insert, so it's really cool. Additionally, the rulebook is really well written, and the rulebook it also looks great. It looks like a brochure that you get as a future CEO of a company, and it's written a little like that, so it's a really nice idea. Another cool thing is that this game has got quite a lot of replayability in terms of all the components. The board is double-sided, so we have one board for the initial play and another side of the board for a more advanced gameplay, and you have a lot of different tiles and actions, and a lot of things are randomized each time you play the game. Different technologies, actions are in different spaces, different company goals. So every time you play the game, the board and the actions and the layout will look a little different. So you have plenty of different tiles and agenda cards and everything, so it's cool. The game is very influenced by Vital Lacerda games, and you can see it by looking at the board, at the components, even when you look at the box. And Ian O'Toole did the artwork for this game, so this is another factor that makes me think about Vital Lacerda games when I look at the Galactic Cruise. But on the other hand, it's got its own identity, so you can say that the creators of the game, they are big fans of Vital Lacerda, but they didn't make a copy of one of his games. But this game is a cool game on its own with its own identity. Another thing that I really like worker placement games, and the worker placement is the main mechanic in this game, where you will place your workers, you will be able to unlock expert workers. So you place your worker, you perform different actions, and this is cool. I have to say that worker placement is one of my favorite mechanics in Euro games. And another cool thing is that even though this game is quite overwhelming when you first look at this, at the rulebook, at the board, all the icons and everything, it's quite a lot of things that you have to learn when you start playing the game. The game is quite intuitive, and basically after a few turns, it's so well designed that you don't really need to check the rulebook. Maybe when you play solo, you need to check the actions of Automa, but in a multiplayer game, it's quite intuitive, and the icons are quite intuitive, so this is really cool. What are the things that I like less about this game? First, this game is quite huge. As you have seen, the board is huge, the player boards are really big. When you play solo, you need another player board for the Automa, and you need space on the left side and right side of your board to place the blueprints, to place all those rockets. So this is quite a huge game, and sometimes when I play solo, I had problem reaching to the top of the board, to move the score tracker, score marker. So the game is a little too big for my taste. Another thing is that this game has had quite a steep learning curve. There are a lot of things to learn. As I said, it becomes quite intuitive, but the game can be quite overwhelming. The rulebook is huge in size. I mean, it's bigger than an A4. And you have then even the second rulebook and the small booklet. So there are a lot of things to learn. If you don't like that heavy Euro games with a lot of rules, because this game has got a lot of rules that you need to understand. It's not that the heaviness only is in the decisions on the board. I would say that this game has the heaviness is more in the rules when you start learning the game than in the gameplay itself. The solo mode is fun because you play against Automa, and the Automa is not that complicated to use, because Automa doesn't use resources, so you don't have to track all the things that you need to track for yourself. But I really would love to see the Automa rules in the separate rulebook, because the Automa rules are placed on the back, the last pages of the main rulebook, and this is not very convenient because the rulebook is huge and you need to check Automa actions because they work differently than your actions. So I wish that they added a small booklet with the Automa rules and a summary of Automa actions, because this is what I need to check when I play the game. I don't need to check the big rulebook, and the big rulebook takes a lot of space on the table, and the game is huge by itself, so I wish that the solo rules would be in a separate rulebook. And the last thing, but I think for me the most important, is that I have a feeling, I played this game a few times, but I have a feeling that in this game there are not that many ways to or different paths to victory, because your main goal in this game is to build those spaceships, to get blueprints, then build segments, then add those segments to the spaceships, and then you will send those spaceships into space on a cruise and then score points. But even though the replayability in this game is really high in terms of components, because you can randomize a lot of things like goals and technologies and locations of different actions, every time you play the game, you will build those rockets and you will send those rockets into space. Sometimes there are Euro games that have different ways to score victory points, and maybe in one game you can focus on this thing and earn points, in another game you can focus on another part of the game and score points. Like in Speakeasy from Vita Lacerda, for example, this is a game where you have different ways to score victory points, and in one game you can focus on this or on that, and that's it. So it depends. If you are a fan of Euro games where you basically have the same game loop every time you play the game, but thanks to different tiles and different actions, you have different goals, and maybe you have to think of different strategies, how to build most efficient rockets, then you will love this game. But if you love a lot of variety and you love Euro games that give you different ways to play and different tracks to focus on, then Galactic Cruise may not be the game for you. But I have to say that overall I really like this game, and I really like that this game is intuitive, and this is for me most important factor in such heavy Euro games and big Euro games, because Some games, like for example, again, Vital Lacerda Inventions or Weather Machine, they were completely not intuitive for me, and I had, you can say, some problems playing those games because all the actions and all the things that I did in those games were quite abstract. But here it's easy to understand what is your goal, what you are doing, what you have to do in order to achieve those things. So this is important. Another thing is that the playtime is quite cool. I played a 3-player game in which I had to teach this game to my friends. So the teaching and setup and everything took about 1 hour, more or less, to set up everything, to explain all the rules and things you do in the game. But when we started playing the game, we have finished this game in about 2 hours. So this is a great playtime for big and heavy, Euro game. So this is quite cool. And I enjoy playing Galactic Cruise. It's a good, very good Euro game, enjoyable Euro game, great looking Euro game. I wish there was more variety. I know that there are expansions to this game, but those expansions basically exchange some of the components for new components, like you have completely new stack of blueprint tiles, but they don't add new gameplay like areas or ways to play the game. They just add more of the same, so we have more variety. But it's a cool game, fun to play, nice idea, nice theme, great looking. So if you like Vital Lacerda games and if you like heavy Euro games, you should definitely try Galactic Cruise. Thanks for watching this video. Click the like button if you like the video, subscribe to my channel. You can visit me on different social media platforms. All the links are in the description of the video. See you next time. Bye.